There we go. Okay, so as I was saying, I have shoulder length brown hair and glasses, and today I'm wearing an orange top, and I'm coming to you from my home office in Delaware. This gathering is recorded and closed captioning will be available. The recording will be posted on the JCC Resource Center as soon as it is formatted properly. We understand that there are many people who may be new to their role and those who have many years of experience. And the same goes for the topic today of AI. So we're asking each of us to bring wisdom to conversations, but there may be concepts and information that's presented that feels commonplace to some people, but may be something brand new to another person. And we ask that everyone participate in conversations, approach each other with respect, define terms and concepts, and we invite us each to ask for clarity when it's required. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Amanda Glincher, who is an impassioned marketer and with over 2 decades of diverse experience. Amanda is the Chief Marketing Officer at the Peninsula Jewish Community Center in California. Amanda is the chairperson of this peer community and will be planning future meetings, and the dates will be announced through the JCC Resource Center and on our briefs. Also joining us today is Chris Strom. Chris is the Chief Marketing Officer at Sunrise Camp, and I have had the pleasure of working with Chris when he worked at JCC Association. Thank you all for joining us today. You're in for and a great program. I'm going to ask you all to put yourself on mute, and I am going to turn the program over to Amanda and Chris.
Oh, Joy, thank you for the lovely introduction. This is such a pleasure. I am new to the JCC community. As many of you know, I've been here for about 6 weeks, but I am not new to the Jewish world after over 20 years. And I am not new to working with Chris. We have had some amazing experiences together, and it is my utmost pleasure to get to do this with him. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump on in. So I think I kind of want to preempt this with, it feels like when we started the conversation about an AI usage policy, which is kind of what got this started on the marketing listserv, all of us were really excited. And also many of us were really new to this and trying to figure out, well, what does that mean for our JCCs? What could AI within our organizations look like? And what comes next? Chris and I are going to walk through everything from some basic terms to what we think are some really fun usage policies, and then go over some ethical considerations. If at any point along the way you have questions, thoughts, please, please, please put them into the chat. We hopefully will have lots of time for Q&A and conversation for all of us at the end. And I don't expect that this will be the last time we talk about artificial intelligence. So we want to keep the conversation going. If everyone can put in the chat just what city you're located in and what your current level of experience is with artificial intelligence, that would be amazing. We'd love to know if this is your very first entree into AI, or if you've been utilizing it, or somewhere in between. That would be great. Chris, anything? Feel free to jump in at any point. We like to have good conversations, so Chris and I will just continue together.
I just want to extend a big thank you to Amanda for inviting me to be a part of this. It's so awesome to be back in the JCC world, if only for 1 hour to spend with you guys. I miss being part of the JCC world, love seeing familiar faces, and I'm excited to talk about this.
Everything else is sold out.
Amazing. It looks like somebody sold out their program, so congratulations. You may want to put yourself on mute. Let's move on to what artificial intelligence is. So very simply, artificial, and you guys can read the definition, but very simply, artificial intelligence is the concept of a computer being able to do what used to, has until now required human intelligence to make.
You didn't like the other ones much or too much?
Somebody is definitely not on mute. If you can put yourself on mute, that would be greatly appreciated. And throughout this presentation, we'll be referring to artificial intelligence as AI because it's a little bit less of a mouthful. While we are talking, I think it's important for everyone here to know some basic language. that is important for you to know as you talk about AI and some very commonly used terms. I'm not going to read all of these to you and their descriptions, but I'll give everybody a moment to take a look at this. And actually, Joy, it would be helpful to know for closed captioning purposes or for accessibility purposes, do we typically read the content on the slides?
I think since the slides will be posted afterwards, we don't need to read the content.
Okay, amazing. Well, if anyone has any questions about these, just let us know. And we will be keeping the chat open. And I would say for the purpose of the conversation today, the two big ones you want to think about are large language models. Those are the models that all of the AI tools we're showing you are going to have been trained on, and specifically artificial generation. So when we talk about natural language generation and processing, you'll see that in a lot of our examples today, as well as image generation. Okay, without any further ado, let's talk about some of our really fun examples. If you have used any AI tools up until now, please put them in the chat. I'd love to see what some of the software and tools people have been using are. And again, if you haven't used any, don't be shy. We're going to go through some really fun examples right now. ChatGPT, yes, that is the one that everyone is dug into. Awesome. Sprout Social, yes. Bing. These are great ones. Midjourney. Oh, Josh, I'd love to see what you've created. Okay, you want to take it away with the first couple of examples?
So yeah, sure, Amanda. So I'm busy reading all of the different AI tools that everyone's experimenting with. The thing I'll say about AI is that I think it's very important, and you guys are taking the first step if you're reluctant to use it. I see a lot of people saying, I've dabbled with it or I'm reluctant. I think where social media was maybe 15 years ago is where we're at with AI, and the train's going to leave the station very quickly. And I think if you're not a really early adopter and understand this technology, you're going to be left in the dust. And it has such a huge potential for so many different uses as a marketer specifically. And so I think Amanda and I are going to zoom through some of these use cases and kind of go from them. The previous slide, I was talking about the last X amount of years, for the last 20 years, I think since Google has been around, we've been talking about the query. You know, we Google everything. It's a verb. Oh, I'm going to Google that. I'm going to Google that. I think over the next 5, 10, 15, how many ever years that AI is really dominating the conversation, we're going to be talking about prompting. And prompting is going to be such a key skill. Just like Google, anybody can do a Google search, but there's probably some tips and tricks and some nuance in how you've learned to search for answers on the internet. The same is true with prompting. And I think you'll see through these examples that becoming a master of prompting is going to be a really valuable skill in interfacing with these AIs and being able to get the most out of them. So the first example that we're going to share is with kind of the tried and true AI tool that took the world by storm back in December is ChatGPT. So Amanda, you want to walk us through this example?
I'm super happy to. So this is probably one of the simplest things to get started with if anybody wants to log in and try something right after this call. And I'm going to just play a short video for you. And what you're seeing in this video here is us creating a prompt to tell ChatGPT that it's an expert copywriter and it knows SEO. And we want its help in supporting engagement of JCC members or potential members between the ages of 25 and 45. We give it a little bit of information on the JCC and the tone we're expecting. And we ask for 30 blog ideas with summaries. And so what you're seeing is within 30 seconds, we've got a whole plethora of ideas that we can then use to create content that would be of interest to our communities. Any of these pieces of content can then be followed up with ChatGPT asking it to write that blog or that article, to provide SEO and keywords, and literally go from asking for an idea to having a post for your website within about 2 minutes time. Next sample use cases, and there's a few of them here, so Chris and I will share these with you. And I would say that these are some of the most fun, just as people who have worked in graphics and in marketing departments for a long time. It's really exciting to see what text to image can do and how much we're capable of doing without being, Photoshop experts. And I personally am having a ton of fun with this one. So I'll show you this quick video, and all you're looking at here is a Photoshop beta. And in this particular instance, this family was playing ball on the field, and I said, I would be really cool with those faces if instead of kicking a soccer ball, they were freaking out over a cockroach. And so what I've done is I've asked Photoshop to replace the soccer ball with the cockroach. And that is what you see in the picture.
I like how Amanda chose the cockroach as the go-to example there. The other thing I've been playing around with this beta Photoshop, and my thought, putting my marketing JCC hat on, was maybe you captured a really great photo at the J, and there might be a no photo kid that is in the picture. With these generative AI features in Photoshop beta, you can simply do what Amanda did, where you put the lasso tool around the person, around the child that we don't have permissions for, and it instantly can remove them. And it'll just fill in the background as if there was no subject in the picture to begin with. Just a super powerful tool that I think your design team would have belabored hours over before, trying to edit the child out and fill something in the background, this, that, and the other. The results are really stunning. And there's another feature down there where it says next to the prompt, you have 3 options. So with all of these, you can get a few different options. If that cockroach was a little too large for your liking, you can click the next button over and it might be a little more of a manageable one. This feature is only available in Photoshop beta, and if you're a Creative Cloud owner, you can go to your Creative Cloud admin panel, download this as part of your plan, and you can start playing with this afternoon. It's super, super easy and powerful to use.
Exactly. Oh, Chris, I know Midjourney is your favorite, so why don't you jump in?
So I love these tools, and I want to preface this also by saying I'm not an expert in any of these. I'm just a practitioner, and I love using these tools, and I feel like I'm 8 years old playing with new toys and video games, and it's just a really exciting time to be exploring these tools. So one of my favorite ones that I found is Midjourney. Midjourney has a little steeper learning curve. It doesn't have that really easy interface that ChatGPT does, where you just go to the web URL, sign up for an account, and start chatting. You have to use an app called Discord, which is, if you think back 20 some odd years ago, it's like a AOL chat room style app. And you join Discord, and you join the Midjourney Discord, and you actually chat or type in your prompts in Discord in order to get them in. This is a generative AI image tool. And what that means is you're generating artificial intelligence images. So this prompt was a really simple one: photorealistic photograph of a child doing a cannonball into the outdoor pool. I didn't get the results I wanted on this one. It looks really weird. There's like a cannonball exploding with a little kid running away, and I'm like, not appropriate at all. So on my refined prompt, I went one step further and I said, hold on, not exactly what I'm looking for. And this is what I was talking about, where we really need to become experts in how we prompt and how we massage these systems. So Amanda, if you go to the next one, I edited that prompt a little more, saying photorealistic photograph of a smiling child jumping into an outdoor pool at the neighborhood community pool on a bright sunny day. So I just added a few more images, and this is like a very basic prompt. But you look around here and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is cool. I really like this one in the bottom right. So I used a command called upscale. And if you go to the next slide, you get a high res, commercially available photo to use in just a few simple prompts. The capabilities of this are really big. We'll talk a little bit about the ethics and about some of the legalities of this towards the end of the presentation. But again, I've been having a blast with this. There's a lot of generative AI tools out there. Stable Diffusion is a really powerful one. DALL-E, which is made by OpenAI, which made ChatGPT, is another one that is a really easy one to use. But these are becoming more and more prevalent. And I think marketers are going to have this as a really awesome tool in their back pocket for years to come.
Yeah, there are some great questions in the chat. I just want to acknowledge we'll definitely talk about the ethics of this a little bit later on, once we get through the examples. And then Guillermo, this is for video games, but also for so much more. This doesn't have to live in Midjourney or Discord or any of the gaming platforms you're using. It's all exportable and usable elsewhere. And Becky, you can totally use your own pics and your own pool and your own kids. And using different tools, upload the images you want, edit them as we were showing in Photoshop. This is something where you could have made the request within Photoshop as well, and just added a child to your JCC's image.
So to answer the, can we use our own pic for the example? For Midjourney, it's a little more of a nuanced. You can use what's called a referenced image. So you upload an image to Discord, get the URL and use it in your prompt. And it's not as straightforward. It's a little more of an advanced piece, but you can do that also with this Photoshop beta that that Amanda shared in the previous slide, where you can open up an image and then use those generative AI features in Photoshop beta to edit that photo or put objects in using the same kind of methodology.
Awesome. So the next thing we're going to show is some sample use cases of how you generate content in bulk using generative AI. In this example, we're actually going to be using Google Sheets. I'd love to see just a show of hands, et cetera. How many people are using Google Sheets? I know that we've got some Office 365ers and Google users. Okay, awesome. And so what you're seeing here, and I'll go ahead and start playing this video, is it's a list of all the Jewish programming that we might have in one year with the program types and the program names. We've created, and I'm just going to pause this for a second because it moves faster than I can talk. We've created a Google Sheet with this information and an extension, which is fairly simple to set up, that ties Google Sheets and Google Docs into ChatGPT. And so what we're going to do is we've written a description prompt of what we're looking for. We're looking for program descriptions in a specific tone. And I've written a code that will allow each of those program descriptions to be created. So we've just dragged and dropped that code. And once again, within a matter of seconds, you're going to see that a program description has been created for all of our Jewish programming for the year. Again, what comes out of AI or ChatGPT may not be 100% usable at once. You might want to add in some more Yiddish that it didn't include for you. You might want to format it slightly. Definitely want to check and make sure it's appropriate for your JCC, but definitely can send you codes on that, Rachel, in a how-to video. But what's really cool about it is that if you have a program guide or a website that you now have to generate descriptions, and kudos for Chris for thinking of this use case, to 150 different programs, it's something that can be done in a matter of seconds instead of taking you hours or days to do.
Yeah, the use case here is just like one of the banes of my existence when I was in marketing for JCCs was the program guide and creating all these little descriptions for the hundreds and hundreds of programs and collecting all that content from everybody in the JCC. And as Amanda said, this isn't a run this and take it for what the output is. I mean, you read through these and it's like, join us for an enlightening journey, join us for an exciting journey, join us for an enchanting journey. So you're going to get some repetition in there, and you need to, again, like, refine these prompts, make sure that they're really geared towards your brand voice and kind of what you're looking for. But this gives you such a head start. And where a blank page of descriptions like this would have taken, again, hours and hours and hours to write the content for, this gives you such an awesome head start. And you can even kind of go one step further if you wanted to, where it says program type, program name. You might want to put in an extra column that says like program details, and you could put in like age. You could put in just like some key details of that, so that the descriptions, the program description that it outputs has a little more of a final touch to it, or a final product, where you might not have to go in and say, no, this is our speaker here, or this is what we're looking for. So again, the more that you give it in a prompt, the better the result is going to be. But yeah, just a really powerful use case. And there's actually not really much code involved here. It's setting up a plugin in Google Sheets and then getting API access. Again, those might be kind of some scary concepts or foreign concepts, but I think a tutorial video in 5 to 10 minutes, you're up and running with this. It's really
that is something that we can share a tutorial video for after this. And I just want to bold, underline, highlight what Chris has said about prompting. You'll see that this prompt is incredibly simple. The more intense your prompt is, the more specific it is, the more detail you give it, the better the output is going to be. And I would go as far as to say that you should really think about your ChatGPT or any AI tool as a brilliant but brand new employee. So know that they have this like huge suitcase of skills and knowledge, and also they don't know you and they don't know your JCC as intimately as you do. And so really you need to give it as much content, as much help as you possibly can to get it started. And one of the things you'll see, and we can send out again a description on how to do this, but you can also give ChatGPT some instructions on who your JCC is and who you are, so that moving forward, all of the content that it creates has that tone of voice and that persona in mind.
So this next tool is one that was kind of around for about a year now, before the big AI boom at the beginning of the year. It's called Descript. And there's a feature, a trick that this app does using AI that is incredibly powerful if you've ever had to edit video. So if you have had to film your exec for a social media video or a video to the community, or if you've had to get anybody on film departing a message, whether it's a holiday message or a greeting or whatever it is to the community, you know how tedious it can be to go through multiple takes of a video and clean it up and get it just right and get rid of all of those ahs and ums and everything like that, or stitch together the best parts of a take. That's what this does. It's a video editing tool, and if you go to the next slide, Amanda, you'll see kind of the interface. So what you do is you upload a video that has speech in it. It automatically transcribes the video, and then you're given a script, the transcription on the left, and all you have to do is edit the document on the left, and it edits the video for you. So you can automatically get rid of all the spaces and the ahs and the ums, but then you also have the ability to just rearrange or edit full pieces of the video, just using it like you would a word editor. Another one of the features that I've tested that you do is, let's say you accidentally say Tuesday instead of Wednesday. Using this tool, it learns your voice and it can mimic your voice. So you can actually change the text to say Wednesday instead of Tuesday in the text, and it'll auto dub your voice over that speech. So, you don't have to go through and be like, oh my God, the exec said the wrong thing. So you can go back and actually change those words possibly to be the correct thing. So it's just a super powerful tool. There's free versions. I have the $30 a month version of it, but it's a really, really good tool if you're editing video.
I think that's one of our biggest pain points, Chris, for all of us, right? Is just video creation and editing in bulk, and this makes it so much easier.
I'm looking at the comments here. Josh Wright says, I'm not sure if you was covered yet, but I've been playing around with targeting a specific author, Stephen King, in a prompt, get a result in the tone. Could this be an opportunity for some campaigns? Yeah, that's an awesome point about prompting. If you're able to, nail down a specific author or a prompt, like let's say you're writing like a short poem, instead of just saying write a short poem about XYZ, you could say act as if you're Robert Frost and write a poem about this, and it's going to emulate that style in your prose. That goes the same for the image generation as well as the text generation. It's also helpful when you say, I don't know if I have it behind me, but do you know that book, Amanda? Is it Edward Strug? It's like a grammar book. I don't know. I'm horrible at grammar, but the idea is that you can have.
Yes, thanks, Jennifer.
Where is it?
Elements. It's elements.
Yes. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate it. Awesome. So the idea is that you could use that and you could say, the elements of style, use those principles to edit this piece of content, and it'll use that as a guide in order to do it. It's again, another really powerful prompting tool to reference either authors or artists or bodies of work that are already composed, to kind of use that huge body of knowledge in a prompt by just including a couple of words.
It's so cool. And I would say that sometimes we're just looking to emulate the people in our own offices, right? So many of us are tasked with creating content on behalf of our CEO or of our board president. If you have multiple pieces of content from them, you can now upload them into ChatGPT as, again, the most accessible tool probably for most of you, and have it spit out something in that same style of writing or speaking. And so it's incredibly cool what can be done, and it is evolving from day to day. So my biggest thing is if you're wondering if something is possible, it is. We just have to figure out how to make it happen. Okay, so this is the one everyone's been asking questions about. I think this should be a fun conversation for us, Chris.
All right.
People feel free to jump in with your own, with your own thoughts and questions here, because I know there is oh yes, Rachel, huge possibility for bilingual content creation. This is making translation so much easier and making accessibility so much easier, which is actually a great lead-in. It knows Spanish. It knows all languages. I've actually had it I've had it do a number of things for me in Hebrew, which I love because I am not a fluent Hebrew writer. And so it's incredibly nice to have that tool. And I think when we jump into ethical considerations, this is one of those ways that we can bring more fairness and accessibility to our communities, is by having this bilingual content for both our staff and our members. But I'd love, I think most of you know what these words on the screen are. What I'd love maybe, Chris, is we can share some of our thoughts, but I'd also like to answer some of the questions people have been posing, and any questions people have that have not yet been presented.
For sure. I'll speak to a couple of them, and then Amanda, maybe you can, and then anybody else who has ethical considerations that have come up on their team or that they've been thinking about or want us to discuss, please put them in the chat. Data privacy is one. So we were just talking about like how powerful these tools are. A lot of leading firms with a lot of customer data or really protected intellectual property. These companies have come down hard and said, you can't use ChatGPT, you can't use these tools because they don't know when you type a prompt in, who's mining that data, where that data is sitting. And it can't necessarily be trusted, or we don't know if it's safe. So as a rule of thumb, while I was just advocating to make your prompts very, very specific, never include any customer data in your prompts or anything that you wouldn't feel safe publishing publicly on the internet and having the entire world to be seen. So you can be very specific about, oh, I wanted to write like Stephen King and I wanted to do this poem and this and write in this style. You could be very specific that way. But I would be nervous to share any really specific private details about your business or your customers. So it's just a little bit of common sense, but worth sharing. I think accountability, I've seen the term trust but verify come up a lot. This notion that if you've used ChatGPT or some of these tools, you'll notice that you get lulled into this like state of, wow, these things are so powerful, and you start to trust it really implicitly. And if you lean on it too hard, you're going to end up copying and pasting something that is not necessarily truthful, or it isn't exactly ready for prime time. And you want to make sure that you are accountable. And at the end of the day, you're still publishing this content. You're still using this AI tool and sharing it as if you created it in some ways. So you want to make sure at the end of the day that you're really paying attention to the output of this. And then the last one I'll talk about is this job displacement. 6 months ago, I was on board. I thought, all right, this is it. We're all doomed. This is going to be the end of jobs as we know it.
Universal basic income.
Yeah, exactly. And over the last 6 months, using these tools day in and day out, I've realized that it's really a tool to help us be more productive and get through a lot of the minutia or a lot of the busy work that we find in our day-to-day. Like that image, the generative AI capabilities in Photoshop, just because that tool can Photoshop a cockroach under somebody's foot, that doesn't mean our jobs as designers aren't safe. It just means that the productivity that we have can be that much greater. And I think that we have this opportunity to really 10x our productivity and our output, so that we can get through the mundane and some of the really kind of day-to-day clerical things that we find in our jobs, and really have time to be creative and to get into the more strategic and to get into the more meaningful work that we find as JCC marketers. So I've reversed my position on it. I think that this is going to be a huge opportunity for us to just be more productive in general. Amanda?
I think you are kinder than I am, Chris. I will come out and say that all of what you said is true. And I think that people who do not get on the AI train and figure out not just how to be amazing prompt engineers, but also how to build their tech stacks with artificial intelligence and how to utilize all these tools to increase their efficiency and the quality and content that they are producing are not going to have a place in the future. Like I know that sounds doomsday, and I'm not supposed to be the doomsday one, but I will totally say that I think this is not a do I learn AI? Do I figure out how to use this? This is a you must. If you are a marketer, CEOs, if that are on this call, please, please, please encourage your teams to use this. Figure out how you work it into your tech stacks. This does not feel optional to me. And I think it is a huge professional development opportunity for everyone to be taking artificial intelligence to the next level within their JCCs.
Yeah, I agree on that. And that kind of teaches on this continuous learning. It's either you adapt or you're going to be left behind. I think within a very short time frame, within the next 12, 24 months, there's going to be a clear divide, as Amanda was talking about, between those who are using these tools and those who aren't. And it's just really jaw-dropping, some of the advancements. And it's happening at such a breakneck pace. That tool that I was sharing, the Midjourney, that has every week there's something new coming out on that. It's not, these tools aren't standing still, they're iterating quickly, and it's something as marketers we need to be on top of day in and day out. So
we have some great questions coming in.
Mhm.
So let's take, maybe we can answer some of these if it makes sense time-wise. Jennifer asked, what about transparency? What do we say when content is generated by AI versus humans, or do we not have to say? So Jennifer, I'd say there's a few things here, and Chris, I'm sure you have some thoughts too. The first thing is, when you are generating content, if you are looking to have it copyrightable, meaning you want to put your trademark on it, and this goes both for images and for language, do not have it be AI generated. So like number one thing, if you're looking for copyrights or trademarks, you need to create it in-house on your own or be hiring somebody. You definitely should not be using AI. There are already court cases that are saying that that is not content that belongs to you for the purposes of copyright and trademark. When it comes to the transparency, otherwise, I would say it's very much up to you. If AI fully generates something, or mostly generates something, which I think Chris and I have both used for fun and for some serious projects, I will often give it credit. And mostly because I think it's really important for my own internal team and for the broader world to know that this is what's possible. And this is part of how our marketing teams are doing so much, right? What I don't want to think is for people to think that we all of a sudden hired 40 new employees. The reality of it is we're able to do this because we have these new tools. But I often will not give it credit as well. Like when it's coming up with ideas for a blog post, I don't feel the need to credit AI. And whether or not you choose to and be witty about it or just give it a small byline is completely up to you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think also, just kind of dissecting that, I don't know that I would recommend giving a prompt, copying the answer and pasting it for prime time. So this again is a starting point. It's something that gives you that big head start off of a blank piece of paper. When prompting, I often like to say, give me 3 options of a description or whatever it may be, or like Amanda did, give me a bunch of blog post articles. And then you grab maybe bits and pieces of one, combine it with another, add your own twist to it, and you're editing it. And again, this is not meant to be a copy and paste. It's going to get you in trouble if it is. I've already had team members paste something back to me, and it says the top line, which is, "Oh, great. I'd love to make those for you. Here are some examples of what you're asking for." And it's like, okay, I gotcha. I see what you did there. But I'm happy that people are using the tool, but I think the next step is really taking that content and making it your own and really making sure that it's 100% on brand and exactly what you're looking for. So
yes, I think that's just big, bold reminder over and over, Chris, right? Do not expect that what any AI tool is giving you could or should be the finished product. We're looking at Emily. My concerns are in creating policy for our JCC, how to go about this and implement within the team and communicating that to all employees. So Emily, one of the really fun takeaways that we actually have for you today is our PJCC's AI usage policy, which we just created as a reaction to there not being one in the space, and as well as some thoughtful questions and building your own. So we'll be sending that out post this conversation for people to get started. Great point, Tammy. I love that you said that about the lawyer. Definitely keep track of what you're creating. And this is another great reason for you to use executive tools or to have a ChatGPT account that your teams have access to, so that everyone isn't creating content in a silo, but rather you can keep track of everything in one space. I know Chris and I have talked to each other a little bit about Chat ABC, which is an option, but that may be a future session for us to talk about how some of the ways for utilizing software to keep track of all of your team's posts and prompts.
Yeah, I think that, as we kind of move into this query to prompt age, there's a huge benefit to sharing how you're specifically prompting the AI to get the results you want specific to your JCC. And instead of having everyone else kind of start from scratch and be kind of, feeling their way through the dark on these prompts, there's going to be an opportunity to be sharing prompts and building ones and kind of pointing to best practices with them. One other tool one other suggestion that I'd like to say is, to make sure that it doesn't sound the same always, one tool or trick that I've used with prompting is specifically with Chat GPT, is I say, I'm looking to do this, whatever the goal is of the content I want. Ask me as many questions as you have about this in order to get the best result. So what it does is the next prompt or the next chat will be 10 questions about that specific thing I'm looking for, and it'll give me an opportunity to write in all of my thoughts and content and questions to those, and it'll create something so much more detailed and exactly what I was looking for, as opposed to just spitting out, give me a blog post about XYZ. It's interrogating me to get all of these deeper, nuanced details that will help inform a really awesome output. So just a trick in kind of getting the most out of some of these tools.
That's a great trick. I'm going to stop sharing because I love to see faces while we're talking, folks. And we continue to answer all these questions. I think that that's really helpful. Let's take a look. So Becky, how do you not make the automated images look like stock photos? First of all, you can ask for a photo or an image in a specific style. Chris, you have way more image generation experience than I do. I am not a graphics person. So if you have any special tips and tricks, that would be awesome.
For sure. So there's specifically for Midjourney, this kind of gets into the ethical concerns about it also, is I will share a link in the chat right now to everyone in meeting. This is a prompt library called midlibrary.io, and it basically says, if you want an image to look like this, here's the proper way to prompt Midjourney. And so it goes back, to like ancient Greek and Roman artists all the way to today, and allows you to kind of create in those styles. So if you're nervous about it looking like whatever the standard prompt is, this is a great way to do this. Again, I wouldn't use these artist prompted generative images as a cover for your next program guide or something like that, but I would use it as a way to be inspired and think of different ways of interpreting an idea or a thought or in a specific style, and it could be like a springboard into something else. So yeah, to not make it look like stock, it's all in the prompt and it's all in the style that you're feeding into Midjourney or Dolly or whatever generative AI tool you're using.
That's super helpful. Hannah, how do we know that the artists that AI is learning from are being compensated fairly? So Hannah, my answer for that today is that the artists that AI is learning from likely aren't being compensated. I would say in 99.99% of cases, unless somebody knows something I don't know. And that's one of the things that you really want to keep in mind when you're asking it to generate on behalf of a specific style, and what you're utilizing it for. If you're doing it for the sake of fun, and you just want to see what it will come up with, great. But again, a lot of this is going to be your own gut in terms of how you use it personally, and how you use it professionally is why you need a usage policy. This is one of the things that you want to make sure that everyone at your organization is on board with the decisions that have been made about the usage here. And Chris, my opinion is that as this evolves, we're seeing this right now with SAG and with the Writers Guild. The writers, I don't know what they're actually called, sorry, but Screen Actors and Writers at the moment, they're both striking. And this is one of the big things that they're striking about, is they want to make sure that their skills and talent and content and likeness are not going to be used moving forward without compensating them, and that they're not going to be replaced by machines. And if you've noticed, this standoff has happened for a while, and it's not expected to get solved anytime soon. And so part of the reason for that is because while they have a request, the producers and directors and everybody who is responsible for the bottom line also knows that this can be AI generated content. And so they really are at a sticking point. And that's way oversimplifying the situation. But I would just say that this is going to be a struggle for artists and creators for our time to come.
Here's Chelsea says, I've heard several people feel threatened, like you said. How do you address that in workplace when you have people with strong opinions against AI? Do you believe solution would be creating this as a new SOP policy? I don't think we're at a place where you're going to be able to mandate to use these tools. I think it's a teachable moment, and it's being able to educate people. And I think knowledge and education is key here, and really being able to help people along this journey and showing them the capabilities of what it can do and how it can empower them, and how it can, really increase their productivity and be able to, be more efficient with their time and everything along those lines. I would be nervous to say you're mandated to use this, or you're going to be using this. I think in the very short near term, you're going to see Google, Microsoft, all of these productivity suites start to build in these AI tools natively into their tools. So you're going to be typing on Microsoft Word, and it's going to say, oh, are you trying to come up with a blog post? Let me help you. Kind of like Clippy back in the 90s, the little Microsoft Word guy. He's going to make a comeback, but he's going to be a lot smarter this time. And so I think you're going to see these, it's just going to be a natural evolution, but I would be really nervous to say the policy is to use this, as opposed to more supportive educational series, sit down with them, show them the opportunities, etc.
Yeah, I think making it available and the potential utility is enough that people typically, once they have seen how it can help them, tend to get on board. I want to address something that Rachel asked earlier on, and it was specifically about, racist, homophobic, just generally bigoted content and biased content that some of these LLMs have been trained on. It's a really great question. And one of the big utilizations of AI right now is actually in human resources and hiring. So for those of you on this call that do more than marketing and that are involved in that, or are looking to recruit for your teams, totally use these tools, but double check them. Make sure that it's not ruling out candidates based on content that it shouldn't be ruling them out based on. It's really hard to eliminate biases when tools have been trained by a select group of people and a select history of data. And so I would just say that with not just with hiring and not just with content, but with everything you do, keep that lens in mind and make sure that you are being as welcoming and as open and inclusive as possible.
I've seen some questions about, do you recommend any get started sites for best practices on these tools? YouTube. If you have a question, go to YouTube and you'll find tons of experts who will walk you through and show you how to do any of these things that you're looking to do. It's just it'll give you a quick leg up. Like I spend way too much time on TikTok, probably like most of us or a lot of us do on the call. And so my For You page is just filled with these AI tutorials and tips and tricks and what's coming down the pike and everything like that. So, I just kind of get a steady feed of this stuff. But, if you go to YouTube and you search for, great mid-journey prompting techniques, you'll be able to consume 10-20 minutes and become so much more advanced than you were 20 minutes before that. So
it's interesting, Chris, to show just how different even you and I consume content, right? I'm a huge podcast listener because I spend a lot of time in my car. So if you haven't yet checked out the AI for Marketers podcast, it is amazing and will give you about a week's worth of all the new things and tools and some utilization pretty quickly. Chris, the one thing I love about TikTok is that like all of the tips it's going to give you and the new tricks are going to be doable within a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And so if you are not using TikTok for that purpose, it's definitely worth checking out because it'll give you some really quick bite-sized things that you can start playing with today.
For sure. Absolutely. Guillermo says, what's your recommendation about using JCC name when you're prompting? I am your competitor. I could ask for AI for your entire marketing or social media strategy. I think that's totally fine. I think being able to say, hey, I'm a Jewish community center in this location. Here are some of the key programs and services we offer. Let me go to the census.org and get some of the key details on demographics in my community. Let me paste those in there. Given all of this information, tell me my biggest competitors, tell me some, go-to-market strategies around a new product or a new service that we're looking to launch or whatever it may be. Again, just because these spit these answers out, they're not factual for sure. And you should use them as a starter or interesting thought partner more than anything.
And while this is training the data, it's not going to turn around and spit out it might spit out something, but it's not going to be able to spit out your social media strategy. And I think in general, I would not be super concerned about that. If for some reason you don't want to put your organization name in, which I've created content for other companies where I didn't want any of that being trained, I would just give it a general idea of who we were and then put in my organization name after I had the content. So that's easy enough to do. And you're reading through the content and editing it anyways.
All right. I think that was pretty much all of the questions. If anyone else doesn't have any questions, I'm happy to put my email address and people can contact me directly or Amanda directly, I'm sure. If you guys have any further questions or reach out on the listserv, happy to continue these conversations.
Oh, thanks, Becky. This was such a pleasure, folks.
Thank you so much to Chris and Amanda for this amazing session. Thanks for hanging in there with us, everyone. I know this is lots and lots and lots of information changing every day, but super helpful. And so we will be posting this recording on the JCC Resource Center along with the slides and a couple of more information pieces, and use the email listserv to chat with each other, ask lots of questions. Look forward to a new marketing session. Amanda, what do we pick? September something?
Yeah, hold on one quick moment. I will actually, let's see, because I don't memorize things very well. We have our next one is September 27th at 3 Eastern. Again, we'll be sending these slides out for you to have some examples and some links. Enjoy. Thank you so much for hosting us today and getting this started.
Thank you, Joy.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. I'm thrilled that we were able to do this. So have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and you all take care.